All right, everyone. We are back, and I've got a very special guest here with me today. I have Daniel Recoder from Forte Athletics.
8 off the mat and go. Welcome to On a Water Bridge, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in. It's time for a water break.
All right, everyone. We are back, and I've got a very special guest here with me today. I have Daniel Recoder from Forte Athletics. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. You do a lot of different kind of education and health stuff in the marching arts. For our listeners that don't know, I'm sure you'll get to hear much more in a moment. But before we get going with that, could you catch our listeners up to speed with your 32 count life story?
Let's do it.
All right, you'll get 8 and in off the mat.
Good. So I am a marching fitness professional who really struggled a lot in drum corps and marching band. Like, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I used to be the last person to finish runs, the last person to finish any type of physical training. And over time, I learned how to start exercising, training, and
Nice.
now I create fitness programs to help people succeed in marching band and drum corps.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Yeah, you brought yourself right in time. Yep, 32 counts. You nailed it. Cool. So let's break it down a little bit more. You said you started in band yourself before you got more into the athletics and health and wellness side of things. Bring us down your road a little bit just as a performer to maybe give some more context to your career.
Yeah, so I started on quads my freshman year of high school.
That's okay. It all makes sense now. This is why you needed to become a fitness expert. All right,
Yeah,
continue.
it was so hard, and there was multiple days where I just wanted to quit because like my back, I'd never experienced any type of back pain like that before.
Oh yeah.
And my dad convinced me to just stick it out the season, even though I'm in his car crying, asking to quit. And he's like,
Dude,
just
this
finish
is
it
so
out.
relatable. This is so relatable, except I was such a wimp that for me it was a 16-inch bass drum instead of a set of quads. It was just a
Oof.
tiny little 16-inch drum. But I remember I wanted to quit, and my parents were like, you can't quit. You have to at least see through the season.
Yes.
And so now I
Yes.
blame them anytime they want to ask why I'm so deeply involved and still doing all this stuff. It's your fault. I tried to quit when I was
Same.
13.
Same. Same. So that's where I started, and it was always hard. But that's just where I ended up. And I fell in love with it, and then eventually, one of my friends convinced me to do drum corps,
Okay.
and I tried out for Blue Devils B Corps,
All right.
and I didn't do a single squat, never did a crunch. I could barely run a lap around my neighborhood, which is about a half mile. And I just got thrown into the fire with these deep shell dynasty quads.
Oh, not the dynasties.
I know. And nobody prepared me for what was going to happen, and it knocked me on my butt.
Okay, but you did make Blue Devils B when you went out for it?
Yes.
That's
Yes, I
nice.
did. And
Okay.
that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
I
And
could imagine. I always feel like your first your first season of drum corps or your first season of marching band is so hard because the muscles aren't developed yet.
yeah, and you have no idea what to expect.
Exactly. And especially for many kids, because it's a young person activity, especially at high school level. Many of the
Mm-hmm.
times you haven't done anything physical up until that point in
Mm-hmm.
your life. This is the first real difficult physical thing anyone's asking you to do. Were you from California, or did you travel out to California for BDB?
I live in the Bay Area, and I
Okay.
always have. And um, BDB was about a 50-minute drive away from me.
Oh,
Not
that's
too bad.
nice. I didn't. So BDB is up closer to like San Francisco and Oakland
Yeah, it's
than.
a little north of there
Wow.
in Concord.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Huh.
actually live
For
in
some
between.
reason.
I live in between Concord and Santa Clara.
Wow.
So we got BD up there, we got Vanguard down there.
See, that's me just being bad at geography, I guess. I always assumed that like Vanguard is from the like San Francisco Bay Area and that BD is from Southern California, but I'm just wrong, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, they're both from the Bay Area.
Wow. Okay. Are there no drum corps in Southern California then?
Oh, there are. You got Pacific Crest down there,
Oh, okay.
Impulse. Oh, there's another one down there. Gold.
Gold is from okay. All right. Yeah, I definitely had myself tripped up then. I mean, I know there's so many drum lines out in that part of the country. I assumed that BD was there too, but a little bit off. Anyway, though, you started with BDB. Definitely that was kind of your coming of age experience, it sounds like, with that set of Dynasty quads. How how were you able to like rise to that challenge, and did that do anything to like set you on the path that you're on today?
Well, I have this very distinct memory of like our first rehearsal where we had to do PT, and
Mm-hmm.
the objective was to run 10 laps around the basketball gym. Just run 10 laps around the gym.
Yeah.
And they were like, but don't skimp on any laps. We're counting all of them. And so within the first 3 laps, probably, I'm already getting overlapped by everybody.
Mm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
reached the point where I'm on like lap 7 or 8, and everyone is done, and they're just waiting for me. And it was
Yeah.
just, for me at that time, it was so embarrassing to feel like I'm that far behind everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
And
can definitely feel that way. I think that that would probably be relatable for a lot of students in drum corps having that sort of an
yeah,
experience.
yeah, like this thing is just starting out, and I'm already this far behind. Like it planted this seed in my head that I need to catch up or I'm going to get left behind.
Okay.
And
Right.
so when the going got tough, which it did very quickly for me, I had to make the choice to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like I can't let my teammates down. It's for
Yeah,
myself, it's for the team. And I quickly
absolutely.
realized that no one cares if I'm tired. Everyone's tired.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's tired, but everyone's showing up. And eventually, fast forward to like June, there's a super hot rehearsal where the staff says we're gonna work our endurance today. We're gonna do a run of the closer, and then set your equipment down and run a lap, and then pick the equipment up, do another run of the closer, then set it down, run a lap. We did that 3 times, and we're going. And on top of that, I had blisters on my toes that were like they had
Oh,
already
yeah.
popped, so they're all raw.
Yeah, there's levels to the blisters at drum corps. Once
Yes.
once the blisters themselves have been defeated, that's when you know that you're really beaten down, I guess.
Yeah, like they already popped, so I'm running. I'm already in pain, and by the time we finished the our final run around the field, we pick up the drums. I can't even feel my legs at all,
Mhm.
and like I want to go sit out. I want to stop, but no one else is going to do that,
Yeah,
and I
right.
can't. I can't just be the only one. It's like, all right, peace out. Like I need to be there with everybody. Everyone there is suffering, or as I like to say now, everyone there is getting stronger.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
nobody
we go
suffers, we just get stronger, I like
right,
that.
right. So about halfway through that rev of the closer, I experienced this bizarre phenomenon where I could not physically keep my feet in time. I knew they were out of time. My
Mhm.
brain knew your feet are slow, move them faster, and I'm trying, but they can't keep up with the tempo. And I'd never experienced that before. And I'm just giving everything I have to just finish the rep.
Yeah, right.
Just finish the rep. I got tears coming down my face, and then eventually it finishes, and I could see that everybody was in shock. But they told us it's times like this where we need to learn how to dig deep to discover how much fuel we have in our tank. And we got to take our bar, we got to push it further
Mhm.
away, and it's a very valuable life lesson to learn, especially at a young age like that. I was 19.
Yeah.
To realize that you always have more in you than you ever believed, but you have to put yourself in a situation that challenges you in order for you to truly discover what you're capable of.
Right. It's the same concept I talk to my own students a lot about musically, is like being comfortable being uncomfortable. Like if you just
Mm-hmm.
get the book and you can do it, that's not a good thing.
Mm-mm.
You should be in places where you're uncomfortable, and then you as a person need to figure out how you're comfortable with that. Many of the people in band, I think, understand that concept for getting better at their instrument. I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's a little more lost when you apply that concept towards physicality and muscle development. Just because it sucks, it hurts. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel good to be at like the exhaustion point, which that's what it sounded to me a lot like. It sounded like the rep literally pushed you to exhaustion, almost like you're at the gym and you're trying to reach your exhaustion point on like a set of lifts or something like that.
Yeah. It was a rep that trained to failure. And I knew
Yes,
I was
yeah, it
failing,
went to
but I couldn't
failure.
stop.
Yeah. That's good though. The staff knew too that they were pushing you guys towards failure. That's
Yeah.
maybe something that the students don't realize a lot of the time too when they're being asked to do PT. It's like, as your instructor, I know if I'm asking you to do something that's like crazy hard, you're probably not going to like be great at that. It's usually because that difficult process of being uncomfortable, of pushing your body beyond the limits you thought you had, that's what's going to make you grow and get better.
Mm-hmm. It's the only way.
So that, I imagine, it sounds like that experience is kind of like the foundation or the inspiration for the business that you run today. Am I correct in
Correct.
thinking that?
Yes. Like when I think about everything that could have helped me prepare for that first season of drum corps, a training program,
Yeah.
some sort of like education, none of that
Hmm.
existed back then in 2009.
Okay. Yeah.
None of that
Nothing like that
existed.
existed.
Nah, like I wanted to exercise and get in shape for it. Like I had that want in my head, but
Yeah.
because there was no clear plan and no guidance, I just didn't do anything.
Right. So that's where you come in the year 2023. What
Hmm.
what are you what sort of this is a very broad question, I guess, because on one hand, your business itself, I'm sure, offers a lot of specific, workout programs, clinics, gear, and things like that that helps people train. And on a more general sense, you have a lot of knowledge and information you could share with folks on how they can best prepare. What does Forte Athletics do today to try to help a student who's maybe like Daniel at BDB in 2009?
Hmm. So the first goal is to help educate the community. So
Mhm.
we do that by making YouTube videos that are targeted towards like the performing member, but also educational videos for the staff and
Okay.
instructors. Because I think
Yeah.
it's important for the staff to know that understand the risks involved with this activity. And if they want to push the envelope, they need to help the members prepare for that.
Mhm.
And so that's where we come in to say, like, you want to push the envelope, we want to help your performers have the physical capability of doing that without getting hurt.
Yeah.
But the only way to get there is if they're training. And particularly in the drum corps setting, day one happens and you hit the ground running.
Yep.
It is high intensity, long duration. And if people are just, a lot of them are students. They're sitting at a desk, sitting doing homework, sitting doing blah blah blah,
Mhm.
and their joints, their tendons, their ligaments, they're not used to that kind of stress.
Right.
And so as soon
And
as you hit the ground running like that, recipe for overuse injuries. And once it
I'd
happens,
even yeah, once it happens, it's not going to bounce back exactly the same way, at least
nah.
without lots of training and stuff like that. But I'd even go a step further on the student thing and say, like, me and many of my friends, it's not like we were sports kids, like we were band kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
we many of the students that get into this, I don't think realize how much of an athletic thing they're signing themselves up for. Even just at the high school level, it can get pretty athletic. But especially if you try to take that step beyond, it's like now you're signing up to be an endurance athlete. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably don't come from a cross country background if you play, in the drum line or something like that. Maybe you do, but most of us don't. Are there certain groupings of exercises like cardio compared to strength or muscle groups perhaps that you think are the most important for training someone to be a boss at marching, as I think I saw on the Forte
Mm-hmm.
Athletics website?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on that note, there's this study that was done it was published by the American Academy of Pediatrics
Mm,
that
we got
measured.
sources. I like this.
Yeah,
Nice.
I just made a video on this, so it's fresh in my mind.
Hmm.
It measured the amount of reported marching band injuries between 2012 and 2021.
Mm.
During that time frame, there was 20,335 injuries reported from marching band. And I think like 80% of those were from the high school demographic,
Okay, I
ages
think that's
14
the
to
largest
18.
number. Yeah, there's a lot of high school marching bands out there, so that makes sense, like volume wise. But
Yeah,
continue.
and that's just the ones that were reported. You know how many
Right,
drum corps injuries don't get reported?
most of them.
Exactly, most of them. And so within that study, it also identifies the common areas that were injured, like what parts were injured the most. And the knee and the ankle
Mm,
were the two most injured body parts, with the spine in a close third. So if we
mm.
look at that data, the most important exercises to train are exercises that support the knee, the ankle, and the spine.
Yeah,
Because like if we can strengthen those areas, it's going to help the body move better, move more efficiently, and like withstand the weight of marching with equipment on.
mm-hmm.
So if you want to get specific exercises, something like a clamshell.
Oh,
If
what's
anyone's
that?
familiar with a clamshell, it's where you lie on your side, your legs bent, and then you raise one knee up, and they bring it down. Kind
Okay.
of looks like this. I'm doing it with my
Yeah.
arms, but
But I get it. I've seen that one. I know what you're
yeah.
talking about.
Or you can simply just lie down on your side with your leg straight and lift your leg up to the
Yeah.
sky and slowly lower it down. That muscle's on the
Right.
outside of the hip. Exercises like that, something like heel raises, that can be done
Yeah.
anywhere. And for the spine, the most important exercise that I'm preaching everywhere is the hollow body. The hollow body
Okay.
hold it's like you're on your back. You're on your back and you are training your lower abdomen, the one that connects down at the pelvis.
Okay.
And you just keep your back flat to the ground and you straighten one leg out. And if your muscles engaged, you'll hold it. If your abs disengaged, your back will arch off the floor.
Yeah. My back arches off the floor.
So I love that exercise because you can scale it to any experience level. Like at the rehab clinic I used to work at, I would do the exercise with patients,
Hmm.
but rather than extending the legs, they just keep their knees bent, legs tucked. And you just
Yeah.
hold that. And then when they're ready, just slide one leg out and then pull it back. Slide it out, pull it back. So if somebody's a complete beginner, they can do that exercise. If they're a super advanced athlete, there's a variation for them. Hands overhead, both legs out, hold the weight if you want.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can scale all types of body weight exercises up way more than I think people will give credit to body weight exercises for.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's an advantage to being in the gym and using equipment if you were training for drum corps or doing body weight? Because here, you go ahead, but I could imagine maybe that you might want to do body weight exercises because a lot of doing drum corps is moving your body weight. But
Mm-hmm.
tell me what you think.
So I personally believe that a blend of both would be ideal.
Hmm.
But knowing that demographic and knowing how I was when I was in that demographic, the college age
Right.
range,
Hmm.
I didn't go to the gym. I didn't
Yeah.
go to a gym until I was 24 years old.
Right.
And
I haven't
I
gone since I was 24, but continue.
but I would work out at home because that's where I felt comfortable.
Right.
And so I think what's very special and unique about our programs is that we cater to both demographics, people that want to work out at home and people that want to work out at the gym. And within those two demographics, there's a broad spectrum of experience levels. Some people want to work out at home, and this is the first time they're exercising in 3 years.
Right.
Some people
Okay.
also want to work out at home, and they've been doing it for 4 years. And
Yeah,
so
right.
our programs provide variations that target the same muscle, just at different intensities, so that people can choose, am I a beginner, intermediate, or advanced? You just got to pick one. Where are you today?
Yeah,
And
right.
whatever it is, it just has to challenge them appropriately because it's not a one size fits all approach.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of time that goes into crafting something that can cater to as many people as possible.
Yeah, it
So
sounds
yeah.
like a really excellent resource, man. It even sounds like something for people who are aged out. Like, say you're an instructor. A lot of our listening demographic is instructors and band directors. There's a lot of resources out there to help your students, it sounds like. I would love to hear a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more about that in a second. But even as an instructor, I feel like I might benefit from going and taking a look at like the beginning, intermediate level at home workouts on your page too, just because I haven't been in the gym since I was 24, like I said. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's probably a lot out there that would be just holistically beneficial for all of the listeners, not just people that are marching right now.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what resources you have for staff who are looking, to help train their own students to be better marchers?
Yeah. So we have many different programs that can help the students, and they're designed to be performed at different seasons. Our biggest one that we've launched is called Marching Band Boot Camp 2. And
Okay.
it's a 4-week follow along workout program to help students train during the summer. So that way, when they show up to band camp, they've
Yeah.
been moving.
No, that
And
seems like it'd be so beneficial.
yeah, it's a great resource. And it's totally free, 100% free.
Nice.
And all the workouts are, I think, 20 minutes long in there. So it's not too long, but like they're moving for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll
So
follow
maybe
along, no equipment.
that's that's a question I actually had a little bit. What types of workouts do you think are best? Because I used to think that like hit workouts made the most sense in like a direct application to what band is asking you to do. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
being asked to do some explosive movement and then get to a hold, or even if it's just a more explosive move and then a smaller one that's not as hard for you, but 15 seconds later, there's another harder one coming.
Mm-hmm.
As I worked my way through my marching career, felt like a hit workout was probably the best thing that you could be doing to like really directly train for your show.
Mm-hmm.
What's your perspective on that?
I'm all for hit training. Our drum corps programs this year are in the style of every minute on the minute, and
Okay.
so you just set a timer. And if you're a beginner, you're doing 20 seconds. If you're intermediate, 30 seconds. Advanced, 40 seconds.
Okay.
You do your work period, and then you rest. That type of interval training is
Hmm.
is very efficient, which is important for busy people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's also super effective because it gets you sweating, it gets your heart rate up. You're never just like sitting around for a minute. You're sitting down for like a small window of time, and then you
Yeah.
go again. And we keep the workout selection simple. It's like 3 or 4 exercises. That's the circuit. Because the more complex it is, the harder it is for people to follow and do. We
Totally.
gotta
Yeah.
keep it simple.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. That sounds like me when I'm like at the gym back in the day and I'm trying to like keep track of these different weights on this day, and I've pushed my max here, and
Mm-hmm.
I've done this other set of. After a while, it just became too much, and I didn't keep up with it because I didn't give myself a system that's easy enough to follow. So I think that's
Yeah,
wise, having a
a
good,
plan.
straightforward plan.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
with
good.
that said, for my own personal training, I'll probably do 1 or 2 HIIT workouts a week. But
Hmm.
I enjoy doing the strength training at
Yeah.
the gym or
Hmm.
like on some gymnastics rings.
Okay.
I enjoy that. It's not the most time efficient. It'll take me about 50 minutes to an hour to complete my workout,
Hmm.
but it satisfies me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
how I train is not necessarily how the drum corps demographic needs to train right now.
Yeah, I'd imagine you guys have different goals. You're working towards
Yeah,
different
I'm not going to be on the
performances,
field.
if you will.
Yeah, I'm not marching. I'm not holding quads no more.
You don't want to go do all age? You could get right back in there, man.
Oof. No, I have made it very clear that I'm done carrying quads.
Yeah, I think that's for the best.
I'm not doing it
I
because,
feel
like, I
like
teach a
there
high
needs to
school.
be an age out of quad drumming.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, like when I demonstrate something for the quads, I'll put the drums on, and it
Hmm.
reminds me of how crazy that weight is.
Yeah.
Those hold
Yep.
for that long. I'm like, man, I feel so bad for you.
And it's so funny. It's so funny to me. Like the biggest drum I ever marched, I got so lucky. I was always just playing bass one or bass two. So the
Mm.
biggest drum I ever marched was a 22-inch drum. I will walk into teaching a high school and for a freshman's first day, put him on a drum that's bigger than any drum I've ever played. Like, welcome to marching band, kiddo. Here's a
Yes,
28-inch bass drum.
yes,
You're
that
gonna wear
happens.
it.
That happens.
Yeah.
And
That's like
like,
that's exactly what you were talking about as your origin story almost, is showing up there
yeah,
and then just kind of getting thrown into the fire of like, well, I need to be more fit.
yeah. And I think that us instructors and directors were aware of what we're doing when we're putting this heavy equipment on them. And there's this level, this voice in our head that kind of feels bad for
Mhm,
this
it
student.
does.
Like, even for me, I feel bad that this kid has to wear quads and he's 14 years old. But at the same time, this is what they want to do. No one's making them do this. And, the best thing we can offer that student is a fitness program to help them handle their equipment better.
Right. I agree, yeah. I think that's not usually the perspective that instructors have. They're not thinking too hard about how, to an extent, it's our responsibility just as much as it's our responsibility to teach the music. It's
Mhm.
our responsibility to make sure you actually can do what we're asking you to do physically. We shouldn't just shoulder that on a 14-year-old and expect him to go whip himself into shape so that he's good at his show.
Yeah, that's
Might
not
be a
going to
time
happen.
where it's good to get back into that like old school mindset a little bit, embrace a little bit of PT, but do it in a way that's intelligent and based off some science rather than just sending you. I've definitely had some instructors on the East Coast that will just give you some brutal brutal
Yeah,
PT,
it needs to
which
be
might not.
applicable to them.
Yeah, that's why it's a good thing that there's good resources. Where can our listeners find these resources that you have available? That way they can help their students.
Yeah, so if you go to forteathletics.net/programs, you'll see all of our programs laid out on there. And the one I referred to earlier is called Marching Band Boot Camp 2.
Okay.
And that one is 100% free and does not require any equipment.
Nice.
And
Full
then what's
body
even
weight,
cool is that,
fully free.
yeah, and during the summer, when it's supposed to be used during the summer, I will export all of the workout tracking data so that instructors can see which students are participating and how well
Hmm.
they are participating. There's this
Okay.
accountability factor to it.
So that is a that's a big deal. It's not just that you're telling people what workouts to do. It's also that you have a set of infrastructure of some type to help make sure that students are actually keeping up with the assignment and completing the workouts.
Correct.
That's good. That's the real value add. I mean, that's not the real value. There's a lot of value in a lot of different aspects of what you bring, but that's a big thing that I'm glad that we touched on here at the end. So Forte Athletics, did you say .net?
Yeah, .net/programs.
Perfect. And then where could they find you on social media?
Social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook at forte.athletics.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, it's been really good having you on the show, man. Really interesting getting to hear all this like health and wellness stuff from an actual professional. Because normally it's just a bunch of drummers.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.